Hey everyone, thanks for stopping by. In this video I'm going to be talking about a piece of software called Automize from a company called High Tech Software. A few of you will have seen on IRC and Twitter and whatever that I'd published some CVEs, so that's what we're going to talk about today. So first what I want to do is give like a brief introduction of what Automize is, and then we'll have a look at some of the problems that I came across. So if we go to the product page for Automize, basically what it boils down to is a bit of software that's designed to, automate a whole bunch of different tasks. These are some of the features that they talk about. So you can see it has a task scheduler that will basically schedule tasks, and those can kick off on different schedules. And it does all sorts of things. So it's got FTP client, SFTP client, SSH client. It's got PGP support, Telnet support, ping. So basically what it's designed to do is kind of like automate file transfers, different types of file processing, and things like that. To do that, what you basically do inside the software is set up profiles. So if you want like a scheduled SFTP data transfer, for example, you'd set up a SFTP profile, and that would obviously contain the destination host of what you want to connect to, username, credentials, any private keys and private key passwords and what have you. And that's the same for basically for most of it. So FTP and the GPG stuff as well. If we have a look at basically the patch details for version 10. So I'm only going to talk about version 10 and 11. I haven't got a copy of 9, 8 and below. But the 10 patch notes, there are a few interesting little things. So this says that it's removed old encryption, and that all future encryption will be using this new Java method. So this encryption, basically, when you create a profile, it stores the password in an encrypted format that it can recall and decrypt later for use in the future. So it doesn't store plain text passwords, but it might as well. So what I've got here, I've got two VMs running with Automize 10 and 11. I'm going to have a quick look at 10 first and then 11. So in settings here, this is where you can set up your profile. So I mentioned here SFTP profiles. So you can give it like a name, and let's say we want to connect to like a sftp.test.com or something like that. And you'd give it a username, so let's just call it test, and a password. For this, I'm going to give it like a nice long password. We'll have a look at. I'm sort of making this up as I go along. We might look at private keys and stuff, but I don't think there'll be much point, and you'll see why. So I'll save that, and then just pop that in. And the windows are a bit weird on this, so let's just go in and make sure it's there. Yeah. Okay, so if we go into the file system, we go into where Automize is installed. So program files, Automize, data, settings. These are basically the settings here. So SSH profiles is basically what we've just done. This is the file it's just been written to. So if I open that, this is the profile we just created. And here's the password, the encrypted password for that account. All these other details are stored in plain text. So the host, what else we got? wherever the username is. Username, there we go. I'm blind today. So in a nutshell, that's an encrypted password, which we will look at a little bit later. Some other things this can do is it has a password manager, and you can do like set password manager password. So we can just pop anything in, for example, and we can set that password. User interface password as well. So if I quickly just close this and then open it up again, we're right in there. If we set a user interface password, I'm just going to put test and set it, and then close the application and relaunch. We have to enter a password. So we'll put test in, and we're in again. So if I refresh this page here, all of these passwords that we've just been setting, pass manager, there's the encrypted password, and another one. You can see right off the bat that I set 2 different passwords, both as test, and the encrypted passwords are the same. Let's go by date modified. Front panel, no, that's a different thing. Yeah, so I guess it stores the password manager. Yeah, password manager password and the interface password in the same place. So there you go. The other thing to note about all of these files, so if we look at the SSH profiles again, if we right click and go to properties, you'll see that it's actually readable by all users. So I'm running this application under just the administrator account. Automize does require local admin rights to run. You can't run it as a standard user. So for these files to be readable by standard users is a bit of a fail, really. So basically what I did is I wanted to find out how secure these passwords actually were. And since it's all, well, the applications are kind of like a random combination of Java and Windows executables. So if we go into, again, the Automize installation directory, we have these different Java files here. Now, the one we're looking for is called hightech. So it's this one, hightech.jar. And if we open this one and expand it out, if I can remember where it all is, utils, I think. Nope. Core. Nope. I think it was utils. Password encryption.class. Oh, it's in engine, for God's sake. Engine utils. So password enc.det class, this is the one we're looking for. So this is the class that will encrypt and decrypt passwords. So if we have a really quick shift through this, what you can see is it checks for these number of stars at the beginning of the string. So these ones. So three stars is the old encryption type that the patch notes made reference to, and then 4 stars is the new one. So you can see that when you type in a password, it automatically prepends 4 stars to it and then passes it through this string encryptor function, which is down here. We'll look at that in just 2 ticks. And then you have the decode password function, which is obviously slightly more interesting. So we'll ignore the new one for just a second. So this is still the old one. So the old password type is still backwards compatible in 10 and 11. So when you set old passwords, or when you set passwords in versions 9 and below, and then you upgrade those passwords, they never got changed, they never got updated. But the decode function is backwards compatible. And what you can see by reading this is it's not actually encryption at all. It's just a substitution. So if character equals whatever, then just substitute it out. So that's pretty darn embarrassing. So it just substitute the characters around and then just returns it. And this is just a counter in the loop and what have you. So the new one is more interesting. So it passes it back off to this string encryptor function. And then obviously returns it at the end. So if we have a look at this string encryptor class, one of the first things that you see right off the bat, default encryption key right there, and there's actually nowhere in the GUI to change this. The encryption key is static, so customers or whoever's using the software can't change it. The only thing they can change is the Java key, which I'll go back to in a sec. So if the encryption key is null, use that. If it's default, use that. If it's something, use that. So basically, it's always using the same encryption key. So it grabs the encryption key, grabs your Java key, this encryption scheme, and just runs it through this class here. By default, the Java key is just the string default. Okay, so if we go back to the GUI, we go to settings and password encryption, default is right there, and you can actually read it in the GUI, which is pretty poor. If you try and change it to something else and click save, it says it needs to be more than 24 characters. So here's a random string of 24 characters. So if we smash that in there and save, what you can see from this source is that it writes it into this file here. So again, if we go back to the file system, go back to Automize, this is the file. And again, this is readable by all users, and it contains the plain text string right there. What I want to do just for now is to change that back to default. Okay, so there you go. Pretty narky stuff. So if I quickly hop across to Automize 11, this actually isn't very different at all. So there are some slight differences in the coding and the style and stuff, but functionality wise it's exactly the same. Same encryption scheme, same encryption key, and all of that. So really, to write our own decryptor, all we really need to do is steal these classes basically and just put them in our own application. It should be noted, I guess, that if you do a Google or whatever for Java string encryptor class, you'll find a copy online which is probably at least twice as long as this one. So there's a lot of stuff in the public one that I've seen that does salting and a bunch of other stuff. But in this implementation, they've just taken it out. So there's no salting at all. So the information that you really need is kind of right here. So what I did was just to take a copy of these these two classes and just wrapped it in a little function somewhere, wherever the hell I put it, to basically just read in from the command line. So if we go to profiles and let's just create one test, I'm going to call it test. The password, I'm going to put in this super secret password and I'm going to save it. And I'm going to take the encrypted password, go back to my little Automize Pwning application. So it's literally just, like I said, just those two classes that I've just basically copied across and then took out a bunch of other references to stuff. So this does logging, and there are a bunch of classes in the real application for logging. Because I didn't want to carry everything across, so I've just sort of commented out the bits that I don't need. And then I've not done anything clever. I've basically kept everything hard coded just for this example. So this is like a bit of, you know, pointless code here, but it's not pointless, but you know, you get the picture. So if I run this and it says enter encrypted password, I'll just paste in what we copied from here and just hit go. And it just doesn't work because for some reason. Have I changed something? Encryption settings. No, I didn't want that. So this is what happens when you just make stuff up on the fly. Password encryption. Yeah, so I haven't changed that back. So derp default. If we try it now. So that's an interesting point actually. When you change the Java key, I'm not entirely sure these get updated. So I think, do we have to go into profiles and sort of try and resave it or something? God knows what a real customer of this software would do. That looks different to me. Okay, so let's take that. I'm not entirely sure how it would have decrypted that, but whatever. Yeah, it's broken. That's okay. What we'll do is we'll just take the password again and overwrite it. Save. Okay. There we go. It's a bit better. Of course, what I could have done is just, if I put this back, gotta love Windows open now. Oops. Come on. Password encryption. So if I just change default and put that back in. Change this password again. Let's just update it. Take this again. And if I feed this into here instead, so there you go. So the reason I don't think I'd bother talking about these very much, because every single password that you put into this thing is encrypted in the same way. So if I go in and put super secret password back in and put it in the private key password, and then open the profile, you can see that this string and this string are exactly the same. And this is true for encryption settings. So the PGP stuff, if you create a profile and import a private key, for example, and the passphrase gets encrypted with the same function. So if you can decrypt one, you can decrypt them all. So I'm not going to bother going through every single example. So there you go. In a nutshell, that's pretty much it. So the CVEs that have been raised have been for the file permissions on these files. The fact that they're readable by standard users is obviously an issue, and the static excuse me, the static encryption key is one of them as well. So I do plan to release kind of like an application that makes a little bit more sense. But it kind of depends on how you're going to run it. If you want a jar file that you want to run on a server, or if you want something in PowerShell to do it all in memory, to collect all the information from the file system and do it in memory, or a Metasploit module. Yeah, there are whole different ways to do it. So I guess if you ever come across this software, you're now armed to steal everything. So I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks very much.